Welcome to Bods, Crabcakes, and Sports, where husky middle-aged men share insight on the latest Baltimore sports news. From the bank to the yard and beyond, we're breaking down the Ravens, Orioles, Terps, and more. Baltimore's best sports podcast starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to a late night version of Bods, Crabcakes, and Sports. Jason and Mike here. We are Johnless because John is spending time with his family after working many hours selling automobiles. I apologize for the late start tonight. I did have a softball game. So as you can see, I'm also trying to eat a quick snack because I have not eaten yet. Mike, I have nitrate-free food over here, nitrate-free salami. Uncured, if you will. So no of those nasty additives. Some cheese and mustard.
No.
So that's what I got going on. And I made a beverage. So Drew Cordolo, friend of the show, he says that we need to be drinking more during shows. So I did make a beverage. So there's that. Nice. So that's about it, Mike. I mean, I don't really have anything to report.
Nothing sexier than a dad chewing on salami during an episode of a podcast. So I think we're off to a great start. I poured myself a nice little Pepsi, so nothing alcoholic in there tonight because I'm trying to stay awake from the 6 a.m. start this morning. But I'm excited to talk a little bit of Ravens. However, this week has kind of been a crappy week, I feel like, for Baltimore sports fans.
Excited? Oh my gosh! So
yeah, I got a vent. I'm excited to have an outlet, Jason.
I think that's exactly it. I've been struggling all week with all of this, and I'm like, I know John reached out and John wanted to do something immediately, but like when everything happens immediately, what are we going to talk about? Like our initial reactions with no information. It took 48 to 72 hours for like the dust to settle here. And it's quite unfortunate. I got a lot of feelings on this matter. I don't know what's right or wrong. I know that I guess I'm not happy, but I understand why they did it. But overall, I don't like how it went down and potentially why it went down. And the more I find out information, it gets under my skin a little bit. Like I'm not a big fan that there's some truth to the fact that players could be impacting the next coach or the current coach. I hate that in any organization. Your players, whether it's your Hall of Fame quarterback or your second string safety, it doesn't matter who it is. You don't get to determine the future of someone and their livelihood. Like, I hate that. I actually got in an argument with another friend of the show. I'm not going to call them out, but they're like, "Oh, well, that's just how it is." The whole the MVP quarterback gets to decide. No, I'm sorry. Like Joe Flacco didn't get to, not Joe Flacco, but like, it's back in the day they didn't get to decide that John Harbaugh was going to come in or not come in. They didn't ask Ray Lewis. They made the decision that was best for the franchise. And then taking a step back, Mike, maybe that's what I have to kind of lean into. They got it right one time. I mean, Art Modell hired Brian Billick, so I don't want to talk about Brian Billick, but Steve Bisciotti got it right the first time. Can he strike twice, I guess, is where I'm having some doubts.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that they decided to part ways with John Harbaugh this week. I had assumed after the fallout from the game on Sunday night that the coordinators would be scrutinized heavily. And I had assumed that at the minimum that Zach Gore would be gone because I just think that's 2 years in a row of an underperforming defense with some good skill players in those positions. I don't think we have we don't have a pass rush. I think that's the one thing you could say, that we have to create a pass rush. But he was able to do that a little bit more successfully at the end of the season last year. But in the game against Pittsburgh, there was absolutely zero pass rush. And when you allow a 42-year-old quarterback to just sit back and pick you apart, and all you had to do was get pressure on that guy and make him move a little bit like we did in the first half, just a hair, that's a different outcome of the game. So for me, to see Harbaugh be the one that was let go was very surprising. To me, it looks to me like Harbaugh, of an 18-year career in Baltimore, right? 18 years as the head coach, consistent character. I think if you talk about players from every single team that he's had, they've liked John Harbaugh. They've enjoyed playing for John Harbaugh, and you can say that he motivated his teams. I get really irritated, and I have a lot more to say about it, but that people say that he lost the team. I think that's not correct. I don't think that's correct. He might have lost Lamar Jackson potentially. Even that, I think is correct. I think Todd Monken lost Jackson, and then John stuck up for Todd Monken, and he lost his job because he stuck up for a coach, which I think is admirable in a certain way that, he knows he's from a coaching family. He understands the importance of sticking up for people. And I see why he stuck up for Todd Monken, honestly. You had no offensive line this year. Lamar was hurt all year long. And I don't think you can pin the entire offensive issue that we had this year on Todd Monken. I think he's done a phenomenal job over the past couple years. And I think he's allowed to have a down year. So I see why John maybe stuck up for Todd Monken. But to me, there's an obvious disconnect between Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken. Regardless of what Todd Monken said on the Ryan Ripken show the other day, I still think there's a disconnect between those two people.
Right. And, it's funny because you asked a couple weeks ago if there was a coordinator that had to go, who would it be? And I thought I had guessed Todd Monken, but mainly because I wanted to be right with the question. Not that I believed that really was going to happen, but it's hard for me to say that they were going to step away from a 30-year-old defensive coordinator who's so young and has so much ahead of him. And I think he was dealt a crappy hand for Zach Orr because he didn't have. I mean, they don't have a pass rush, and then you send your only pass rusher off, and he gets 10 sacks in San Diego. What the hell with Oweh? I get it. Okay, it didn't fit, and they didn't. I think we get too cute sometimes, but. As far as Monken goes, I'm struggling here, Mike, because I can't deal with all these message boards and these crazy crazy Maryland Ravens fans that are just like, oh, thank God, great. Oh, well, let's celebrate that someone lost their job. Great. Hey, I can tell you, I know you, Mike, in your career, you have never lost your job, but it is the worst, most helpless feeling in the world. And don't give me, not you, but other people, don't come at me and say, oh, well, these guys are millionaires. Well, you know what? It's all relative when you're a millionaire and you're spending money at a millionaire level, or you're Jason and you lose your job and you're spending money at my level. It sucks. It's the most hopeless feeling in the world. It's not good. And I don't talk about all the other coaches in other leagues that have lost their jobs because it's not directly affecting us. Because here in Baltimore, John Harbaugh's situation is a Baltimore type thing. Like when Buck Showalter and Brandon Hyde, when these guys got fired, it sucks. It sucks, especially when you have children and you have to move. But that's a whole different story. But with that being said, the Ravens, let's just say, would the Ravens have even been in this position if Tyler Huntley didn't win against the Bears and if Tyler Huntley didn't win against the Packers? Hey, guess who was in charge of calling the plays for your backup quarterback that won those two games? Todd Monken. Okay, some of this blame has got to be on Lamar, guys. Only because, and whether he was hurt or whether it is. And it's not just Lamar. It's the offensive linemen. It's the defense. It's everyone that John Harbaugh, again, I go back to it, did not drop that football in Buffalo last year. John Harbaugh's toes didn't go out of bounds against Kansas City last year. John Harbaugh didn't miss the field goal, but there's always a fall guy. What I don't like about all this also, Mike, is that, and this is where it kind of gets me I have a lot of respect for Steve Bisciotti, but the general manager and then Sashi Brown also tried to talk him out of all of this. It has been reported that they could not convince him to not get rid of John Harbaugh. I mean, I kind of respect, in a way, as bad as this is, I respect Bisciotti as far as sticking to his guns. But then I also have to step back and say, let the football guys make football decisions. So that's kind of where again, not too upset that they're moving on. It's how things happen here. Because you know what, guys? You know what, Baltimore fans that are happy about this? The grass isn't always greener, and careful what you ask for. Because all these coaches out there, oh boy, It's not pretty. We'll get to that shortly, but it's not pretty.
Yeah, the thing that I keep coming back to is the consistency of John Harbaugh over 18 years. Not just the consistency of winning, however many playoff appearances and AFC championship games and a Super Bowl ring, more the consistency of how he related to athletes and how athletes responded to him, how he stepped up. Just, I mean, in the last game, walking Tyler Loop through the tunnel and understanding that there are things bigger than football, and he always had players' backs. It felt like when it came to that, and if there is an issue between Lamar Jackson or John Harbaugh, it's really hard for me to believe that John Harbaugh is causing that issue because of all the character that he's shown throughout the year. So to me, we don't know much about Lamar. He doesn't talk much about his personality, feelings. He was asked about how he felt about Harbaugh next year, and of course he declined really to comment on it. But to me, declining to comment speaks volumes. Not endorsing your coach in any way and kind of just allowing things to unfold the way they did. I just have a hard time with that, considering how many guys went in there and gave him hugs and loved him, and they were just super upset by the fact that he's being like, oh, and all these guys who played for him in the past coming out the same way and saying how amazing he was, and how all these NFL teams, with their 7 teams with vacancies, I think each and every one of them would take John Harbaugh as their coach. Not only that, there are teams in the playoffs right now that the rumors are if they're one and done, John might be the next guy on the list. And we had him here. So for those of you guys super excited about John Harbaugh being gone, remember that. Now, with that being said, are there things I didn't like about John Harbaugh? Absolutely. I thought he was a crappy time manager. He never managed a clock well. I never thought that he put his finger on the pulse of the team during the game and X's and O's wise was able to make adjustments personally at certain levels of time, or took over and overrode a coordinator in a certain situation where he should have. There are some things that John needed to work on in those areas, and I don't think he got much better at that over the course of 18 years. But there were so many positives with John Harbaugh on this team that it's really hard for me not to feel upset, disappointed, sad in a way that he's moved on. And I worry that he goes to the Cleveland Browns or somebody in the AFC, and we have to see him over the course of the next 10 years, coaching a different team in the playoffs. You got to remember that he did have a lot of success early on, despite the failure here recently.
I think what's going to be worse is when the Bills lose to the Jaguars and he goes to Buffalo. And they win the Super Bowl in a year or two with Josh Allen as a quarterback. I think that's more likely than anything here. Yeah, obviously, there's a lot of different scenarios that need to work themselves out, but John Harbaugh. So something I'm thinking about now. John's job essentially depended. If you listen to the reports, it really came down to, okay, you need to move on from your coordinators. So he puts his foot down. John's not dumb, right? Like, he's a smart guy. He knows that if he pushes back too much, he's going to get let go. Maybe he's tired of all the crap. Maybe he's tired. Maybe he wants a fresh start. Maybe this was intentional at that point. Now, of course, he comes out and says he wanted to stay here. This is what he wanted. But, I mean, that's kind of playing the game, right? So maybe he did what? Maybe he wants to go down to Miami. I'm going to tell you, everybody, he's going to be the highest paid NFL coach of all time. He's going to get a bigger contract than John Gruden got. That's more than $100 million over like a 5-year period. He is going to get paid. And I hope for his sake, I try to do, like, how I am, Mike. When we talk about things, I'm always kind of even keel. I think about my team and what I want. So if someone leaves, I forget about what they do. I don't cheer for them. I move forward. I will be following John Harbaugh and hoping he does well. If the Ravens get eliminated, if the Ravens play them, obviously I want the Ravens to win. But hey, if I got to root for somebody else, I'm in his corner, because he seems like a really, really good guy. No scandals involving John Harbaugh. There's some things over the years with Ray Rice, which was nothing to do with John Harbaugh. Was there things like that? Sure, every team has something like that. But John Harbaugh ran a very clean ship, and we were very, very lucky for 18 years to have him here in Baltimore. But I keep coming back to this. I knew Jim Harbaugh had a brother that played college football and that he was a coach somewhere. That's all I knew about John Harbaugh when he came here. Is that out there again, Mike? Is there something like I give Bisciotti his props for finding that? I didn't even know he was on there. And apparently but that wasn't their first hire. Do you remember who their first choice was? I'm gonna
I'm
just
guessing
catch you
Jason
off guard
Garrett
here.
back in the
It
day.
was Jason Garrett, and thank the good Lord. The only reason I think he had pictures of Jerry doing something naughty. I think that's the only reason he was there so
Well,
long.
well, Jerry's not stepping down as GM until an owner until he wins the most Super Bowls ever. He said this week. So a lot of Jerry left in our lives.
Oh, poor Jerry.
Um,
What if Jerry doesn't make it?
well,
You
that's
know,
what I worry about. I don't think Jerry's going to realize that. I don't think he's going to know what's going on at some point, and then it's going to be
big
topsy turvy.
big fan of Jerry. Jerry's good for the NFL. I love it. I really love it. We need
He's
more of
fun.
that.
He's
Like,
fun to talk about.
yeah. I mean, Jerry's a good guy. He just wants to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about them Cowboys?
Oh God, help us. My Uncle Terry would love that. No, so look, I think here's my issue. The first time around with John Harbaugh, the expectations aren't exactly what they were right now, right? That you had Joe Flacco's rookie year, right? And they overachieved really. How does the coach coming in this year overachieve? The only way the coach coming in there this year overachieves is getting us to a Super Bowl, probably, right? So coming in as a new head coach into the building, like the expectations are off the charts for this team, especially with a two-time MVP winning quarterback. So I worry about the fact of the pressure immediately. So to hire somebody young, I think is generally the direction the organization goes. But is that what's best for Lamar at this point in his career and for winning a Super Bowl in the moment? Like, I think maybe in this transition phase of 3 to 5 years with Lamar probably in his prime, you might want to look at finding somebody with some experience for this to guide us through this part. And then when we go to rebuild again, that might be when you go to look to find the next head coach where you're kind of looking for that continuity, the young guy who can kind of build moving to the future. With that being said, I look at the who's out there right now, and I'm not overwhelmed by the candidates. And I think you feel the same way, Jason. And when I say that, I still think my personal feeling is they need to go with a defensive oriented coach. And I think they need to build the defense back to where it needs to be. But that's got to be a DaCosta and that coach thing, because the defense is flawed inherently because we can't get a pass rush. So if they don't get a real pass rusher or somebody who can rush off the edge, and if Matabike's hurt forever and they don't replace him, there are a lot of holes in the team that don't involve coaching. So it's got to be the general manager stepping his game up before the coach even hits the field. But my suggestion to the Ravens would be go defense with your head coach, and then find an offensive coordinator that can relate well to Lamar Jackson and can kind of come in here and pick up where Tom Monken left off. I don't think he needs to change too much, but the relationship piece with Lamar is going to be huge, and be able to build a positive relationship with Lamar Jackson and someone who's proven that they can run an NFL offense.
So I hear everything you're saying, and I thought about all of this because it's like we don't feel like we're too far off from a Super Bowl. I mean, this roster is a lot. I mean, I wonder if they do go the route of hiring someone young and give a 1 year rebuild slash retool. And what I mean by that is you move on from DeAndre Hopkins, you move on from Roquan Smith, potentially because of the contract and also because he's lost a step. They just signed Andrews, which is kind of interesting. But like you start cleaning house in certain spots, right? Marlon's gone. So your expectations have lowered down because you're now rebuilding everything. But in the NFL, it only takes 1 year to do it. And then you have that new coach type inspiration and motivation that usually gets you a couple extra wins, right? I mean, look at down in Jacksonville and how that turned out with Liam Cohen. And it happens all the time. Ben Johnson. Now, and I'd like to reiterate, there isn't that one hot head coach that everyone wants to head coach in waiting that everyone wants. There's guys that are very intriguing in certain ways, but I mean, to me, Mike, I don't want any coordinator out there that coached under a team. Okay, so stick with me because this is a big thing here. I don't want any coordinator whose head coach was in that specialty. For example, Andy Reid and Bieniemy back in the day. Bieniemy didn't do anything as an offensive coordinator. He wouldn't make a good head
Yeah,
coach.
I'd rather have Spagnuolo than Bieniemy.
Right. So just think of it. So I don't want, so anyone that coached under Shanahan, no thank you. Anyone that coached, if you call it like McVay, his offensive coordinator, no thank you. Now, his defensive coordinator, on the other hand, if I had to choose, and I'm not ready to choose, I don't know what I want. Chris Shula to me, I think, is your best long-term choice. I would love to say Kubiak's kid would be the one that I want, right? We need an offensive guy in here. We need to inspire Lamar. No, you just need a good offensive coordinator that you give the keys to. Maybe that's Mike McDaniel. Maybe that's Cliff, what's his face? If I needed a friend,
Kingsbury.
I want to hang out with Cliff. Did you see back a couple years ago in that draft, his pad in Arizona? I want that guy to be my friend. He looks like a good time. I'm telling you.
Oh, Clifford.
Like,
I would hang out with
I don't know. But what I'm saying is, if I had to choose, Chris Shula right now goes to the front of my list. I want absolutely nothing at all to do with Brian Flores. Go away. Don't want to hear about it. If the Ravens do it, they're making one of the biggest mistakes. I have heard nothing but terrible things. I have some friends that have done some business. I don't want to say too much with the Dolphins over the years. And I I tried to stand up for, like, when he got fired. I said, I think this is a dumb move. And he, like, literally stopped me, messaged me privately, and was like, yeah, dude, this guy is a turd of all turds. Like, terrible to the players, not good. And the NFL didn't want to touch him until Tomlin jumped in because of the lawsuit against the league. I see Bisciotti pivoting away from that. I really do. I don't. Something tells me that's not going to happen. I really hope. But there's some other. I mean, Kubiak. I don't know. Where are you standing? Is there anyone that, like? I really hope that we're not thinking, okay, well, this guy's better. He's the least of the worst. All right, the best of the worst. Is that what we're thinking?
Well, why do you get rid of John Harbaugh then if you're going to do that? If that's your train of thought,
I know.
right? Like, I don't get it. So I don't know. To me, I'm still having issues with the whole Harbaugh thing, but I think I need to process it more. But if I'm thinking about the coaches that are available, again, a defensive mind is what I would look for. I'm kind of hoping that when the playoff dust settles, there are more options available. And I think the Ravens are a patient organization. So if they think that there's some guys in the playoffs, like, for example, I know that they're requesting an interview with Joe Brady from the Bills. Like, I'd be curious to see what he has going on. He's a young guy, like 36 years old. He's had success with Josh Allen. Maybe he can have success with Lamar Jackson. I don't know if that's the case, but that's the idea, though. If there's somebody in the playoffs that's around that's had success, I think those teams are the ones you want to pluck from versus the teams that aren't having as much success necessarily. However, there are some exceptions. For example, Steve Spagnuolo. He didn't get much of a I thought he got a pretty raw deal when he was in the Rams down in L.A. And I guess they were in St. Louis maybe when he started. It was kind of one of those messy situations when he didn't really have a great go at it. But with the Giants, he was a great defensive coordinator. He had some great players. And then he played, he's done a great job in Kansas City with that defense. So I wouldn't mind seeing what he had to offer necessarily. I like Jesse Minter is an interesting candidate, a younger guy. I know Flores, you said, isn't interesting to you. I don't have the same information you do, but I'd be curious to see what he's all about. Saleh, he looked like a head coach with the Jets, but like he didn't really have much to work with there. When you have a quarterback, it's really hard to win. That first season he had in New York wasn't awful, and I thought he did a good job. And he's run that 49ers defense and done a really good job with them again. So I wouldn't mind, seeing any of those particular options, maybe, but none of them thrill me. Honestly, the one that I would like the most is still coaching in Pittsburgh. if Mike Tomlin was let go by the Steelers, let's say they get blown out by the Texans this weekend and they're ready to part ways, there's your defensive minded coach. There's your guy who can motivate. He checks both boxes for me.
No, I mean, it's so funny you say that because, like, as far as guys with experience and whatnot, I mean, once these playoffs get done, I mean, LaFleur in Green Bay, if you want the offensive mind, I mean, everyone can say what they want, but like Aaron Rodgers was like, he's got to be so hard to deal with, and LaFleur did a great job there. Tomlin, obviously, I mean, Tomlin would be interesting. I like that. I mean, that's very Harbaugh-ish. That's very like, this is my way, and he has respect in the league. I don't know. I don't know if John goes to Pittsburgh, and I don't know if Mike Tomlin comes to Baltimore. I just don't see that. I'm trying to think who else. I think that I'm not really interested in McDermott in Buffalo. I, but there are guys that, like you said, Spagnuolo. I think Spagnuolo is a much better coordinator than a head coach. I think, but he's all but said that in the past. That's why he didn't like. I mean, he's had some good years in Kansas City, and he's turned down like interviews and stuff like that because he wanted to keep doing what he was doing. I just McDaniel to me, good coordinator. Not really interested in him as a head coach. I do like Jesse Minter, but I'm afraid everyone's going to get upset because it's like the Mike McDonald / John Harbaugh clone type situation, right? But I think we're in agreement. We want a guy with a specialty, right? But that's what the NFL is nowadays. Besides Tomlin, even though he's kind of defense, he doesn't meddle in the defense really. He's more like John Harbaugh. Those two just manage, and he has people that he entrusts everything with, which I respect that too. So, but we're saying that nowadays NFL, more than likely, you're going to get guys with a specialty, correct?
I would say yeah. More often than not, you those are your type. You get somebody who specializes in one side of the ball or the other, and then you hire a fantastic assistant to take care of the opposite side of the ball. And that's generally what's going on right now in the NFL. The Harbaughs and Tomlins are few and far between. Those guys who are just are have enough respect of their. But I think the other thing that goes along with that, Jason, is the X's and O's coach, right? Neither of them are, I don't think, known for their X's and O's. They're known for their ability to motivate, and they're known for their ability to build relationships with their players, which is a very rare breed of coach, honestly. I think a lot of coaches can do that, but that's not what they're known for. A lot of the coaches around the league are known for their side of the ball and the X's and O's side. Like Matt LaFleur is known as an offensive mind. Sean McVay, known as an offensive mind. You can go through the league and say, hey, defense, hey, offense. This guy, Flores, defense. Mike McDaniel, offense. So you just go through and you see what their specialty is. But until they are able to be stable and steady and show how to build relationships and constantly win in a consistent way year after year, they'll never be known as that coach that's able to build relationships and motivate their players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued now. Like, I guess if I had to pick, like, I'm not real interested in any of the college situations. Like, I'm really not. I don't. And then I have a tough time sitting there thinking about all this because, like, are they ready to win now? Like, are we convinced that the Ravens are only a few players away from winning? Because I'm not so sure they are. I mean, I don't know. I'm having a tough time
I
here.
am. I'm convinced. I think they're a pass rusher, and give me maybe a couple other players and the right coach. I think because when you have a quarterback, I think it only takes a little bit when you have it's when you don't have that quarterback. That's when you feel like you're miles away. But if you have that quarterback and then you make your draft is excellent. Look at the Cleveland Browns. Like their draft was excellent this last year. Like they got Schlesinger. They got a tight end that's going to be there for the next 8 to 10 years. They've got maybe their quarterback of the future. We're not sure yet whether or not Shador pans out. They got a couple running backs that were very good. Judkins unfortunately got hurt. So like they had a great draft. All it takes is one good draft at around the legitimate quarterback, and you have a chance to win.
Yeah, I just when I break all this down, like number one, if they don't figure out, I mean, Lamar's $78 million against the cap. Holy crap. If that doesn't get figured out, and I hope there's no hard feelings or forced trade or anything like that. I mean, no one's going to accept that contract, so it's going to have to be a redo. Like it doesn't matter where he is. But if he ends up staying here, and because it sounds like this is the move to do that, then they get his extension taken care of. I believe they have like almost $30 million in cap space once that's taken care of, assuming that will get taken care of. So you can do a lot of stuff with that. But I still think some other moves need to, like, I don't, honestly, I'm kind of 50-50 on Roquan, whether he's going to come back. If I think he will, like what they're going to do, I think it's 50-50. I think it's like 80-20, him going, then staying, that Marlon's gone. Marlon Humphrey's gone. I think this was it for him. I just think he's lost a step. Like it's just not the same player. He's a great Raven, love it. But they do. So that means you got a lot of needs here. You got 11 draft picks, and we're gonna have plenty of time to talk about what they need to do. But between free agency, the draft, and maybe some trades, they need to get to work here and figure this out. This is probably Eric DeCosta's most important year that he's ever had. Because if he wants to continue to do this job, he's going to have to also do stuff because he's a big part of why they weren't successful this year. Going into the season without doing anything on the offensive line, and like Kevin Ostreicher from Locked On Ravens said, all of these compensatory picks and not taking care of going out and signing guys, just go get what you need and worry about everything else later. But yes, you did not build the trenches. That is why you are sitting at home right now. And that is why John Harbaugh is out of a job. It's funny, Mike. I wanted to say this, and I know it's kind of out of turn here, but you had mentioned that like John Harbaugh was a terrible time manager. I thought the best game he ever coached as far as time manager was this past game.
Yes, he had 3 timeouts in his pocket while Tomlin is burning them. You are 100% right.
No,
I was thinking the same thing.
Aaron Rodgers burnt them
Ah,
because my headset broke. You're so full of crap. I hate that
Isn't that
guy.
crazy? You're right, though, Jason. That may have been one of the best games he managed in his entire life. But it's been inconsistent year in and year out. So it's crazy, Jason, too, how mirror image have the Orioles and Ravens been this year with the fact that both of them let go of their coach and both of their GMs have so much to prove in the offseason. It's very, very similar. It's eerie. It's how similar it is. And, I think DeCosta has a ton to prove. I don't know about Roquan. I still feel like he's a centerpiece. I don't know if they're ready to move on from him quite yet. I don't disagree that he has lost a half a step or a step. I see that for sure. But his leadership in the locker room, I think, is going to be key to whoever takes over. And so I have a trouble moving on. Now, Marlon's a different story. Unless you're planning on moving him to a safety role or kind of changing his role, I don't think that they can afford to keep Marlon on board as a cornerback. It's just not effective, especially for that salary. So either they restructure or he's gone. So I think that if we're talking about personnel in that way, I'm kind of thinking that's how the Ravens are dealing with those things. Now,
and
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike. Well,
no, go ahead. You were ready. Go ahead.
I'm not sitting here clamoring to get rid of Roquan. I'm thinking the issue with his contract is going to come up and the fact that he's lost a step. If they can, I don't know if this year is the year that I think it's actually next year that it's cap friendly to let him go. I don't think it's this year. I'd have to dig into all of that. Okay. But whatever the case may be, if you bring somebody in somewhere in your draft, like you had Teddy Buchanan, he's obviously going to have to take some time to get back from the knee injury. But if they can bring in some other guys around him that also play his position, and now you have guys in waiting. Now you can do more with that. And obviously that's just roster building and how you're going to take care of all of that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of question marks, dude. I mean, and it starts in the trenches on both sides. And I don't think it's one pass rusher, Mike. I think it's multiple pass rushers, interior and exterior, because the Matabike situation, it sounds like that might not, he might not ever play again. And if that is the question, then we're in a heap of trouble.
I mean, on top of that, Jason, I think it would behoove us to speak a little bit about Lamar Jackson, because I think we're going to find out who the real Lamar Jackson is this year, because, let me liken it to teaching and coaching, right? So I have a teacher come to me about a particular player on my team and them misbehaving in class, right? And it's just one teacher and it's just one kid and maybe they don't get along well and maybe that's an issue, right? And so I deal with that. But when 7 teachers come to me about a kid in my class, you know what? The problem is probably not the teacher. It's probably the kid, right? So now that Lamar is now going to have a chance with some more people that are managing him, we're going to find out if Lamar was the problem or if Lamar is going to be part of the solution or John was the problem. So it's not exactly the Brady Belichick thing, but we are going to find out really if Lamar Jackson can thrive in someone else's, environment. And I'm not sure what the answer is. I do have concerns, like I said, with moving on from John, just because I think it's a little short-sighted from the Ravens' perspective. They're only looking into the next 3 or 4 years when you need a coach that's going to set a culture. So I hope they don't lose track of that piece when they're trying to make Lamar Jackson happy.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely been a thought of mine. But see, I mean, Steve Bisciotti has come out and he's been very clear that he's not interested in the next 15 years how the Ravens are doing. He's only interested in the next 5 years because he's getting older and he's probably going to sell the team. I get it. Fine. It's your toy. This is what you want to do with it. But, you had one of the greats. And I get it, everyone out there that's saying, these guys are dumb. Eventually, they're going to have to move. Yes, eventually. This probably wasn't the year, guys. I wasn't ready for this. The league, and somebody's going to benefit from this. It's so interesting how this is going to play out, though, Mike. How these first round games go is going to determine where John Harbaugh is. Is he going to be a giant, which would actually not be a bad situation there because I think they're on the come up. He can bring all of his own people in. They're going to let him do it. Great ownership, great family. Love it. Like same thing with Pittsburgh if he decided to go there. Then you have the teams like, Cleveland. That ownership is a joke. You don't want anything to do with that. Miami. Here's where it becomes interesting because Jim Harbaugh and the owner of the Dolphins are very, very close. And you know how Jim feels about John. And I think that there was some talk about like McDaniel was coming back and then John Harbaugh got fired. I don't think that's a coincidence, right?
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
What if Andy Reid retires? What if I don't think I'm just saying, whoever wants, like, John is very smart. Green Bay, very intriguing because they're not too far away, right? They got the defense in place. They got the quarterback there. They have a good offense, right? Miami's would be a rebuild. Does John want to go through a rebuild? New York isn't exactly a rebuild. It's kind of almost there. They might have a bad year. John might get them at 500 next year, or I just can't go 500 anymore. But
What
8,
about,
9.
What about the Raiders,
7,
Jason? Do you think there's any chance he
No,
goes
absolutely
there?
not. Far away, far away.
Far
John,
away.
I love John. You love John.
Tom Brady's there. Tom Brady's a winner.
Yes, but John's a church going man, and I don't think he would do too well in Sin City, Mike. I just don't.
I don't think
see
so
it.
either.
I mean, what if the Rams win the Super Bowl and McVay retires? Now, obviously, we can't wait that long, but like, there's a lot.
Can he
of
unretire and we hire him as our coach?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know that McVay had thought about retiring after they won the Super Bowl and like the year after that, but I think he's been reinvigorated. I think he's just fine. Yeah. Nor do I care what happens with Sean McVay. He's doing just well. I'm not worried about Sean. I don't know, a lot of storylines out there, Mike, that could affect all of this. You know what? Friend of our show, Alfonso, also the godfather to my youngest child, he texted me and said, who do you think? This was like on Wednesday morning. He's like, who do you think's going to hire him? I said, at the time, 2 teams. I said, the Giants got to be the favorite. And my sleeper team is the Cowboys because of good old Jerry. And I think Jerry would fire Schottenheimer in a second and hire John if he thought it would get it. But the fact that there hasn't been any grumblings about that makes me think that that's just not going to happen. So I don't know, Mike. This has created quite the carousel.
It'll be interesting to see how it all falls out. But yeah, I mean, I could easily see a number of teams that have a sitting head coach where you go, look at your coach, look at John Harbaugh, look at your coach, look at John Harbaugh, and you're like, I'm going to take John Harbaugh. But again, what a risk if you don't know if you're going to be able to get John Harbaugh. So who knows how it plays out. I do think, like you said, Jason, it'll be if Pittsburgh gets blown out. I'm curious how the fallout goes with Mike Tomlin. Like, what is that going to look like in Pittsburgh if they see Baltimore get rid of their head coach and then they keep Mike Tomlin after a failure to win a playoff game? What's it been since 2014 or something like that?
It's like 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like imagine what Pittsburgh will be up in arms, and whether or not their owner decides to acquiesce to that, and then obviously, like we said, Buffalo, not getting over the hump. Green Bay been in the playoff year after year, not getting over the hump. So there's a lot of teams that are kind of in a similar boat with that, and see if they end up, finding their way over the hump.
I mean, the Ravens have already had a lot of interviews already, and they've thrown a lot of people out. But I think they are very patiently waiting the first round. But see, they have a leg up on everyone else. They're the most attractive job out there. The only thing that everyone else has on them is that John Harbaugh isn't going to be one of the candidates. Other than that, like anyone that's available, like this is a turnkey situation for them, right? So, yeah. I find it all very fascinating, and I don't think the Ravens will hire anybody anytime soon.
Yeah, real quick, Jason, just so our listeners know, they completed an interview with Kevin Stefanski today, which I don't know what your thoughts are on Kevin. Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator. They've requested an interview with Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for the Bills. They completed an interview with Broncos quarterback coach Davis Webb. They've requested an interview with Cliff Kingsbury, like you said, Jason. They've requested an interview with Robert Saleh. So they've completed an interview with Vance Joseph, who was with the Broncos. So they plan to interview Brian Flores, maybe Matt Nagy is what I've heard. So like there's a lot of names that are out there, and that some of those we haven't even mentioned yet.
Yeah, I mean, you posed an interesting question the other day that has me thinking, like Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is the reason why he is so successful is he took over organizations from top to bottom. The one reason I think that it could be a possibility a little bit is that Ozzy's still in the room, and Bill Belichick was a big part of why Ozzy had his start in Cleveland. And I don't know, maybe the game has passed him by. I doubt it. I don't think it has personally, but interesting option. I just think it's a short term option. It's like a 2, 3, or probably a 3 or 4 year thing. But
What about Nick Saban, Jason? Any chance they get somebody from the college ranks or someone who's currently a college coach? I know Dan Lanning's a hot name.
I think Mrs. Saban would kill that man if he went back to the NFL. Big fan of Nick Saban. I don't see it. I really don't. I think he's done. I really do. I think he's happy with what he's doing. I mean, he left on his own terms. He also left probably because the college game was getting a certain way. But he left the NFL after one season as the head coach. But he was a defense coordinator, obviously, for years. Again, there's a connection here. Ozzy, Saban, different things when they all were in Cleveland. But I don't think it's it. Indiana's head coach.
Signetti.
Interesting. That's all I'm really going to say. The only guy that I would even consider, it's such a different game though, but then it's not because college has kind of changed to free agency. But Signetti, he brought his guys from different places. Like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with the jump.
Just a brief update, Jason. Indiana's up 56-15 on Oregon right now in the college football playoff semifinal. So I think they're putting the finishing touches on their way to the championship game against Miami. It's a home game for the Miami Hurricanes, though.
Oh my gosh, Carson Beck. Look, man, I'll tell you. I was not a believer in Indiana because it didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense to me. And I thought that the Terps would be a much better, I never thought that the Terps would ever win a national championship in football. But even if I'm doing odds, let's just say odds, I would have said it was like 1,000 to 1 that the Terps would do it. I would say it was 25,000 to 1 that Indiana would win it. And look where we are. So, the world is turning upside down. Pets' heads are falling off. I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't. I don't know, Mike.
Should we maybe let's get into the playoffs a little bit? Maybe our thoughts on NFL playoffs, Jay. Is that
Yeah, I mean, I
on the
guess
docket?
so. I
I
don't want
just
to
real
do it.
quick,
I
I
can't
have the
move
games
forward.
up here, and I want you to tell me. You're going to tell me who you think's going to win, and I'm going to tell you who I think's going to win. Okay, and we'll just
Okay.
do that real quick. We'll go through the playoff bracket, and maybe give me your upsets, who you think's going to win. So the first game I have going on, I don't have them in order, but I'm just going to say Jags Bills. It's 1 p.m. on the 11th. What do you think? The Bills going to Jacksonville?
As interesting as I would find it that the Bills would lose, I think the Bills actually win this game. I really do.
Yeah,
I think Josh Allen, yeah, I think he won
I
that game.
agree. I agree. Josh Allen makes a difference. I don't know why I don't like Trevor Lawrence. It might be his beautiful flowing blonde locks. I'm not sure, but I don't know why I get so irritated by it. But I think Josh Allen, just the experience of being there, and Trevor Lawrence has been there a little bit. I think it's going to be a really good game, honestly. But I do
Yep.
think the Bills end up winning that game as well. How about let's stay in the AFC? Steelers Texans. That's Monday night game.
So
The Texans
apparently,
travel to Pittsburgh.
apparently the Steelers haven't lost a Monday night football game in some crazy amount of years since like the 90s. Like someone would have to fact check me on that. Um, I think that that's a bunch of crap. I think the Texans. So Mike, I'm gonna share. Don't tell anyone yet, okay? So don't tell everyone else. But the Texans are my Super Bowl pick out of the AFC.
You like
So,
that? You like the
oh, I do.
defense?
Dude, it reminds me of the 2000 Ravens like you wouldn't believe. It does. A little not quite as good with the running game, but oh boy, are they playing the best football and they're doing it on the defensive side. I think they win that game in Pittsburgh very, very easily. I think Rodgers gets like 7 or 8 sacks probably. If not, and like the game against Cleveland, Rodgers struggled because Miles Garrett was in his face on every play. The Ravens don't have anyone like that. So
No.
again, maybe something they think about adding, young, old, both, whatever. But the Texans have two guys that can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Texans win that game, going away pretty easy.
I really like D'Amico Ryans too. I think he's an
Oh
underrated
yeah.
head coach. I think he does a really nice job there in Houston. So, I like it I like the Texans in a close game. The Steelers haven't scored any points in the first quarter. If you've looked at all the stats recently in the playoff games and all these losses, they have like 0 points in the last like 4 or 5 playoff games in the first quarter that they've had. The key for Pittsburgh is not to get behind early. Think about what those pass rushers are going to do if they can pin their ears back and get in there on Aaron Rodgers. If the Steelers have any chance to be in this game, it's running the football and getting a lead early and forcing Houston and C.J. Stroud to come from behind to win. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I do also pick Houston in that game. All right, so the last AFC game this weekend, Jason, is the Chargers, the LA Chargers, not San Diego, going to the New England Patriots. What are your thoughts on that game?
Oh, interesting game. Um, I think it's going to be one of the tougher games that New England had. I see. I don't know what New England's health like. Do they have all their defensive weapons back that they didn't have against the Ravens? If they do, that's a different team. Um, ooh, man, it's a toss up for me. I like the Chargers, but I think that they have overachieved based on what they had to deal with this year, injury wise, losing those tackles and everything. So because of that, I think New England's a little too much for them. So I'm going to take New England.
I just think Drake May's playing lights out right now. So I think the Patriots are actually gonna win in a rout. I really do. I feel
Hmm.
like they're just on fire right now. He's throwing 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. There's just some synergy with Mike Vrabel. He's been there before. Obviously Jim Harbaugh is a really good football coach as well. So it's gonna be a good matchup. But like you said, Jay, their offensive line, their defensive line has had some injuries. It's really been a tough year. They've really done a nice job of piecemealing things together, allowing Justin Herbert to do enough to win games. But they're not winning games going away right now. If anything, they're winning close ones. So they have to keep it close. With New England being at home, and just the way that juggernaut has been all year, I'm taking New England. All right,
Yeah.
so NFC. NFC got some really nice games this weekend. Let's start with the number 5 seed Rams visiting the Carolina Panthers. With I guess someone had to win the NFC South, Jason. um,
Right.
so obviously the Panthers have done some nice things. Bryce Young has taken a step forward this year, and you've got the Rams with their weapons of Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams running the ball, and a veteran Super Bowl winning quarterback in Matt Stafford going into Carolina. Does that home field advantage make a difference for them, or is the Rams too much?
So I think they played a couple. Didn't they play a couple weeks ago and Carolina won? Right. I
Yes.
believe. I am not convinced that's going to happen again. I think LA or the Rams are very strong. And another secret, but you can't tell anyone again, Mike. I have the Rams coming out of the NFC to be this to play in the Super Bowl against the Houston Texans. I love
You're half
McVay.
right. You're half right, Jason. Good job.
Yes. So that's where I'm at. So I'm going to take the Rams over the Panthers. I think the Panthers are almost there. They were one of my sleeper picks this year, as doing a lot of stuff because they had a good year. I thought they had a good year last year as far as improving with a first year head coach. So I just think they're a year early. I'm going to go with the Rams.
All this sleeper pick thing makes me tired. It's 11 o'clock at night. You keep talking about sleepers. You're going to get me in trouble. All right, let's move into the next NFC game. We've got the 49ers led by the fighting Brock Purdy of the world, the Mr. Irrelevant. And they are going to Philadelphia to face the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, who probably up to their standard have a little bit of a down year, but still win the NFC East, which division was not very good this year. So what do you think? You got the 49ers, who were in a great NFC West, going to a Eagles team that is a seasoned veteran team.
I get nervous with this one because this is again another pick 'em for me. It's like 50-50. San Francisco's defense scares me a little bit. Like, can they hold Philly down? Because Philly's defense is still top notch. I don't know if the 49ers can do enough to make the Eagles uncomfortable. So because of that, I'm going to go with the Eagles. I mean, the 49ers are my Super Bowl pick as of the beginning of the year, them and the Ravens. I'd love to stick with them, but if I have to decide, I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Why are you in my head? You have picked every game the same I have, and I have mine written down. I'm looking at them, but I also have the Eagles moving on. I like that they've been there. I like the home field advantage in Philadelphia. I feel like it plays up more than some other home field advantage. And, I really love how the 49ers played this year. Christian McCaffrey, fantastic season. George Kittle looked really good again this year. And Brock Purdy, underrated, does a really nice job protecting the football and finding people in space. And, he can run a little bit, even though he's undersized. And I think he gets the most out of his frame that he possibly can. I just think you look at that defensive line and the size of that defensive line for Philadelphia. I just don't know if Purdy can do it. And I don't know if McCaffrey can get going. So, to me, home field advantage, kind of plays here. And I think Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley do enough to get the job done. So, give me the Eagles in this game. All right, last game. We've got the Chicago Bears hosting the Green Bay Packers in an NFC North showdown at it used to be Soldier Field. Is it still called Soldier Field? I don't know what it's called anymore.
It is. It is.
Yeah, so
It might be
you've got
I don't know. Yeah, it might be like something at Soldier Field or something like
yeah.
hemorrhoid cream at Soldier Field.
I hope not. I would change the name.
Right.
That sounds like it could cause some issues. Maybe some preparation H there. But let's
There
go
you
with let's go with that game. How do you feel about Jordan Love, coming off of some injury? You've got the Bears with Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator, doing a really nice job with Caleb Williams and crew this year. What do you think of this game? Does the veteran team that's been there, do they win, or does the up-and-coming Chicago team lay down the law at home?
So I think they split during the year. And both games came down to the wire, just about like one possession games, I think, right? I think Green Bay won the first one. And then the
Yep.
second game they won, but Love had to leave the game, and Willis came in, played very well, and then he got hurt. And then there was that bomb at the end that Caleb threw to Moore. Um, I really want to go with the Bears. I do. And I also think that it'd be interesting to see what the Packers do if the Packers lost right away. But I'm going to say the Packers experience is going to pay off, and I'm going to go with the Packers in this one on the road.
Finally, we have something different because I'm going to
Ah,
take Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears in this game. I like Caleb Williams and how well and the confidence he's playing with. I like the young running back Guy from Chicago. I think he does a lot for them in space. They have a plethora of receiving weapons, and we saw Baltimore go up to Green Bay, and I know they didn't have their quarterback when they went there, but in Green Bay, really dominate a depleted Packers defense. They're not going to, Micah Parsons isn't coming back. Like, that's not happening. So I really think Chicago can take advantage of some of the same things. They're going to watch the film from that game. And I think Ben Johnson, a really keen offensive mind, is going to find a way to win. It's going to be tight, Jason. Like you said, all year long they've played tight games. It's a division game. It's just like Ravens Steelers. So I think the Chicago maybe wins by a field goal, but I think it's going to be an excellent game.
yeah, I'm half tempted to change my guess, but for the sake of argument and for the show, we can disagree.
Okay. So I'll let you know on a little secret. You gave me your little secret. I'll give you my little secret. Again, I'm with you on the Rams. I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC. I think they end up finding a way through the bracket. I just think they're the most complete offense and defensive team in the NFC. For the AFC, to me, it comes down to two teams, and I kind of had to pick them here between the Broncos and the Bills. And I'm going to say that the Bills find a way just because it's Josh Allen's time. I just think it's Josh Allen's time. And if he doesn't find a way this year, doesn't have the home field advantage, obviously that hurts. But I think that the experience of those tight games, the Pat Mahomes game where he came back with, 17, whatever many seconds it was. I mean, there's been so much heartbreak there. I feel like he's kind of like on that path that Ravens team was, back in 2012 after they lose with the Billy Cundiff and Lee Evans incident, and like they've gotten so close and so close. I think it's time for them to break through. So I'm going to go Buffalo and LA. That's where I am right now.
So I thought about this, and Buffalo is definitely one because everything like kind of falls in place. Kansas City's not in the playoffs. Baltimore's not in the playoffs. It's just the Bills. But the way that Houston took care of Buffalo earlier this year, Josh Allen couldn't do anything, and he wasn't hurt yet. Okay. I mean, I don't think they have the firepower offensively besides him, unless they want to run the ball the whole time. But I mean, if he drops back to pass, I'm not convinced that's the best way for them to win football games.
Sure.
So I don't know,
Could you
man. It'll be
could you have
interesting.
imagined a playoff starting this year? No Joe Burrow, no Patrick Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson. Isn't that crazy?
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's the good thing about football. That's one of the fun parts about it. So, did you have anything else for us?
Yeah, I exhausted my tank, I think, with my other thing. I'm going to save it for another day. So I think
Fantastic.
I spent all I had on those playoffs. So I'm going to skip my other thing I had going on.
Well, Baltimore, in case you weren't here for the whole show, Mike and I are not happy about the John Harbaugh situation. Um, I am all about change motivating and improving franchises and improving your football team. I think it's time for coaches to go when you lose the locker room. And no matter what reports come out, I'm not con I would say that he has plenty more than half of the locker room. Now, does he have the leadership council? I don't know. And that is what represents the locker room. Just food for thought here. I mean, it's never good when someone loses their job. And John's been great for Baltimore. I'm hoping for great things here. I just I keep sticking to be careful what you ask for. This is not the year for head coaches. Mike, final thoughts.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I really love John Harbaugh as a coach. As someone with Christian values similar to John, it's like I love how no matter what happened, he led with character. He led with high moral fiber. He was able to show his faith. I loved watching those locker room talks after the game where he gave out the game balls. Like that's something I'll always remember about John Harbaugh. He never threw his players under the bus. He always praised in public and criticized in private. He did all the things that good coaches do to really maintain control of the team and to keep the team flowing in a positive direction. So you think that stuff's easy and you just want to fix the X's and O's. Just watch out because that stuff can turn south on you awful quickly. And that's what I worry about when you have a coach like John and then you let him go. So I worry about that. But again, being a Ravens fan, you just put your hands together and you hope that you trust in Eric DaCosta, you trust in Steve Bisciotti because those two guys have done a really good job. And you just hope that they are really serious in vetting these candidates and they find someone with similar values that can then drive the ship forward in the next few seasons.
And the final thoughts for me, I caution that, we nationally, everyone criticizes Lamar and whatnot. Oh, it's coming. It's coming now. And you don't have a John Harbaugh to blame for it. You don't have a Todd Monken to blame for it. So all the pressure is on Lamar now. And this is what's going to happen. Now, a good head coach will come in, hopefully deflect a lot of that. And then again, I don't personally, last thing I'll say here, I don't think this situation is resolving itself anytime soon, Mike. I do think that they are doing their due diligence. And I would say that at least this weekend's games, maybe even going a little farther. But if guys start coming off the board with other teams, but it's like everyone's going to be waiting to see what the Ravens do and John Harbaugh does. Those are the two moves. So that's all I really have. Thanks for joining us here tonight. I hope a lot of you were able to stay on here. If not, maybe on your day off on Saturday when you're out there enjoying your life. We'll be back to you sometime next week. Hopefully we'll have a better schedule set. A lot of stuff going on here. But for Mike Frisky, I'm Jason Weisbecker, and we'll see you next time.
Don't forget to subscribe to Dad Bods, Crabcakes, and Sports on Red Circle, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your free podcasts. And while you're at it, leave us a review. It really helps us out. We're trying to spread the good word about Baltimore sports far and wide. Follow us on social media for more behind-the-scenes actions, memes, and bad sports takes. You can find us at Dad Bods, Crabcakes, and Sports on Instagram and Dad Bods, Crabcakes, and Sports on our Facebook page. Until next time, keep rocking those dad bods, eating those crab cakes, and never miss the game.